Poker's a lot like sex, because everyone thinks they're the best, but most people don't know what they're doing.
839 people came to Las Vegas thinking they knew what they were doing. Now just 27 remain, all fighting for 9 spots at the final table with one ultimate dream: to be world champion.
Be careful.
This event is the one event you want to win. You're called a world champion the rest of your life.
I mean, this is the one that everybody dreams of winning. It's the biggest payday, and it has the most prestige.
It's our Super Bowl.
Yes!
If you win it, it'll change your life.
Yeah!
It comes down to this. If I don't make that final table, no one's gonna remember me next year. If I do make that final table, though, I'm a poker legend overnight.
It's the World Series of Poker, where legends are made. Next. Oh, and yeah, this is what they're playing for. $2.5 million to the winner. Hello, everybody. I'm Lon McCarron, along with sports columnist and tournament player Norman Chad, coming to you from Binion's Horseshoe Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. For the 34th year in a row, the world champion of poker will be decided here. It's the 4th day of a grueling 5-day competition. Most of the former champions have already gone down in flames, but 3 remain, and they're all at our featured table. Phil Hellmuth, the self-proclaimed brat of poker. Dan Harrington, the quiet champion who doesn't always get the respect he deserves. And by contrast, the usually talkative and always dangerous Scotty Nguyen. What a dynamic this is going to be.
Oh, yeah. And only 27 men, Lon, have ever won the World Series title. We have 3 of them at one table. If you're a weekend player, you wouldn't want to stumble upon these guys in this table. But what happens in tournaments like this is great players collide. And when they collide, someone's got to go down. It's going to be very difficult for all 3 to make it to the final table. That's the goal. If you don't make it to the final table, you can't win the big one.
You don't have to be a former world champion to be a great player. And one of the men here is a perfect example of that right there. New York's Jason Lester. He has won a lot of money here in Vegas. His chip count 145 right now. And he is very happy to see a couple of jacks in his hole cards. And he is going to move all in right at the beginning.
With the 145,000, as you mentioned, the average chip count right now for the remaining players is a little over 310,000. So a good spot to go all in.
Phil Hellmuth, a couple of queens, and he wants a chip count exactly on Jason Lester's stack.
Phil Hellmuth always wants a chip count. He should travel with a bookkeeper, Lon. He gets the total of 145, and with the queens, a likely spot to call the all-in.
I call.
He does indeed.
Just queens.
Just queens? Just queens beats just jacks.
I thought it was jacks.
Well, that number next to Hellmuth's name is the percentage that player will have the best hand should they stay in play. The pot size, you see 328,000.
It is going to take a jack now for Jason Lester to remain in this tournament.
Put a jack up there.
And the flop is king.
The flop comes out 2, king, and 8, 3 spades.
The spades are not a factor. Lester's still in search of a jack.
Turn cards at 5.
No help 5. That actually decreases Jason Lester's chances.
It's down to 1 card, and it has to be a jack.
And it is. Oh! The longest shot comes through.
It's unbelievable. What a hand.
Oh, indeed, what a hand. And a shock to Phil Hellmuth.
Nice hand.
Why do people say nice hand when they don't mean it?
He is in trouble now with just 80,000 chips, and this late in the tournament, the ups and downs can be huge, but that's the greatness of No Limit Texas Hold'em. Here's how you play No Limit Texas Hold'em. Everyone is dealt 2 cards face down. Players then bet, and for the first time must decide whether they're in or they're out. Next comes the flop. 3 community cards placed face up in the middle of the table that everyone can use. Players bet again. The dealer then reveals the turn, another community card, also called 4th Street. After another round of betting, the final community card is dealt. This is called the River, or 5th Street. One last time, players bet. Then reveal their cards. The best 5-card hand wins. But this is No Limit Hold'em.
All in.
And at any time, a player can go all in and bet everything he has. So at the World Series, every hand can be the hand that makes you or breaks you.
Jason Lester over 300,000.
All the house now knows that Jason Lester has 300,000. He can hardly believe it.
Over 80,000.
Phil Hellmuth, a little bit of trouble, nearly drowning on the river against Jason Lester.
I had it figured just right. I knew he had jacks.
The last time Phil was wrong, I believe, the Cincinnati Kid was still a kid.
There is Phil Hellmuth Sr. He is an assistant dean, of course, at the University of Wisconsin. He was very angry when his son dropped out of that school to play poker. Changed his tune, though, after Phil won it all back in 1989. And now Dad is biggest supporter. Phil may be in his best interest to sit out of this hand after that big loss, but ace-king can't be ignored.
No, you often, after a bad beat, will show some bad judgment in the next hand trying to get it back, but you're going to be playing ace-king.
Tomer Benvenisti looking at 2 10s. And he will play. Raises 25,000.
I'm all in.
And Phil Hellmuth moves all in.
Did he say he has how much left?
Phil Hellmuth, usually asking the other player how much he has left, does not like to be in the position where he has to count out his chips, and they're not many.
I call.
So Tomer Benvenisti is going to call.
All in.
The all-in of Phil Hellmuth. And this could be the end of the day. The pot size 178,000.
And Phil Hellmuth now is going to need an ace or a king to come out to take the lead.
Jack 3-7, no help. Benvenisti, the overwhelming favorite with the 10s. Another jack on the turn.
And Phil Hellmuth is down to his last card. He needs it to be an ace or a king, else he is done in the 2003 World Series of Poker.
Here comes the river. It is another jack. No help. Phil Hellmuth has been eliminated.
Nick the Greek.
Good luck, everyone.
Once said that the next best thing to gambling and winning is gambling and losing. I don't believe Phil Hellmuth has ever thought that to be true.
Phil Hellmuth stunned, and he and his parents seeming at a loss for words. Sometimes the hug from mom is a better alternative.
I thought it was my year. You know, I really did.
Welcome back to Vegas. Action, of course, at the feature table continues, but there are 2 other tables in play, and they house some heavy hitters. Among them is the man they call the Professor, Howard Lederer. His sister Annie Duke was the top female finisher. Howard's still struggling right now after taking a bad beat in the last hand.
You know, the tough beats you absorb in poker always stay with you longer than the tough beats you administer on someone else, and he's bothered by it.
2.5 to 1.
He's still mumbling about calculating the odds on the previous hand. He's got to live in the moment here, though, and he figures the odds are not in his favor. It folds. There is Amir Vahidi, who began the day with about 237,000 in tournament chips, nearly doubled that already. Across from him, Phil Ivey started the day with about 67,000, but he's getting better.
Be forewarned, when he accumulates chips, he's going to become the most dangerous player, maybe the favorite here, if he can get a lot more chips.
One man who was not supposed to have a huge stack, but does, that man Brian Watkins. He is holding steady, about 350 or so.
Yes!
Okay.
Yes!
Maybe a little bit more now. He is a player and a professional, just not a professional player. Not even close.
I'm a police officer in San Francisco. I've been a police officer for 20 years. I'm with some of the best cops in the world. And I hope they can see this. And hi, guys. A lot of people are under the impression that card playing is illegal. Of course it isn't, and I think more and more people are playing poker now than ever.
Brian Watkins wins another pot.
I told myself I'm going to win it, and I still feel that. I'm not the least bit awestruck by these people.
Guys, show your one card.
The luck is with me, so they're out of luck. A lot of money there.
Well, luck is one thing. Nerve, though, is quite another. And now Watkins feeling the pressure. He's in a big hand against Dutch Boyd, another one of the dead money guys. He has just raised Watkins $40,000 in tournament chips and waiting to see what the cop is going to do.
The dead money guy is quite alive, and the flop has already come. Dutch Boyd with a pair of queens in the hole, and Officer Watkins has a straight draw, needs a 3 for a straight. On the turn, it's a queen of clubs, giving him now a club draw along with the straight draw against Dutch Boyd, who's still about a 3-1 favorite in the hand right now with his pocket queens. And of course, the queen on the turn gives him 3 queens, commanding position.
Dutch Boyd is going to make the move. Bets $80,000 to Brian Watkins. And he is going to call it.
So he's going to need a club or 3 on the river to beat Dutch Boyd.
Here comes the river card. It is a 5 of hearts. And you see the check mark indicating that Dutch Boyd has the best hand if both of these players stay into the end. And Dutch Boyd's going to go all in.
And going all in, that is not possibly a call that Brian Watkins could make. He did not make either draw. He has nothing.
He's got it.
The pot $760,000. Too rich for the blood of Brian Watkins. He takes a huge hit.
That scares me.
Oh, it scares Dutch Boyd, but it is absolutely frightening for Brian Watkins. So we saw those 2 newbies on the poker scene. We go back to our featured table where we have 2 former world champions still there, Scotty Nguyen and Dan Harrington. And one of the more popular players and more active players also is that man, Sam Farha, with a chip count of 520,000. Just looks like a poker player. King Queen.
And the King Queen suited comes out firing.
There is Scotty Nguyen, the '98 champion. The Ace Jack.
Scotty still likes to look at his cards one at a time.
And he is going to raise a $25,000 raise to Dan Harrington.
And those are cards in need of a rest home. And now that we see the queen is out, Scotty Nguyen becomes a slightly bigger favorite from 56 to 59%. Sammy Farha, of course, would want a queen.
Sammy Farha is going to call that raise by Scotty Nguyen. And now we move on to the flop. And it is 6-5-9.
And on the flop, 2 diamonds for Sammy Farha. And so even though Scotty Nguyen is still ahead in the hand with ace high, Sammy Farha now the favorite, slight favorite, because he has the diamond draw.
Both check. We go to the turn card. It's a queen. That's a long shot considering there were already at least 2 queens gone.
And that makes Sammy Farha a big favorite now as he gets a pair of queens, and Scotty Nguyen still just with ace high.
So Sammy Farha going to bet $30,000. And it's to Scotty Nguyen.
Scotty will call, and he's going to need an ace on the river.
Nope, it's a 3 of clubs. And you see the check mark. Farha has the best hand should they both stay in it.
And he has bet quickly. Wow.
Oh, it goes from 181 to 241, the pot size.
And a bold move by Scotty Nguyen. He's trying to buy the pot right now. He just has ace high, and he's hoping to drive out Sammy Farha with that raise.
A lot of people ask me about Sammy Farha, and he really is not a smoker. That's a good luck cigarette unlit in his mouth. Of course, you can't smoke here in the Binion's poker room.
This is actually the 2nd year in which the World Series of Poker has been non-smoking.
A lot of dialogue in those smirks.
Got a big hand and a big draw, I call it.
Farha gives it up.
Oh, and the bluff works for Scotty Nguyen.
And Scotty shows his hand to the crowd.
Your hand cannot beat this.
What is it?
Don't show.
Oh, but he doesn't want Sammy Farha to see his cards.
Not a player is different.
All right, Scotty. We're going to war, buddy. We're going to war.
Back at Binion's in Vegas, action continues at the outer table, and at a frantic pace, the cop Brian Watkins is all in against Amir Vahidi. Vahidi 2 aces, Watkins with 2 eights.
Now the cop is going to want to call for some backup on this one, and it's going to be tough to get. He needs an 8.
It was nice, guys.
He seems resigned to his fate, but still a few cards can help him out. A turn card now comes. It's 5 of clubs.
Well, the turn card does help him out because now he can get a straight with a 4 or a 9, or of course he's looking for the 8.
And the 10 of clubs means it is the end of the tournament for Brian Watkins, and a big win for Amir Vahidi.
Great run, though, for Brian Watkins.
He does finish in 20th place. He wins $45,000 for his time here in Vegas. He told us he was going right back to work, too.
It was a gas. Thank you.
So Amir Vahidi is our first man to 1 million chips. He knocks out the cop, but it was this man, Dutch Boyd, who took a huge chunk out of Brian Watkins' stack earlier on. He's been doing that to a lot of people here at Binion's, and he is really accumulating a lot of chips in the process.
Yeah, well, he's over 800,000.
Dutch Boyd has been the buzz of the crowd.
Does he have an agent yet?
I don't know if he's got an agent now. He may have one soon, but everybody here is asking one all-important question.
Who's Dutch Boyd? I was 12 when I started college. I went to law school when I was 15, and I finished up with my Juris Doctorate's degree when I was 18. When I started college, I was nervous as hell, and I felt like everyone was going to be smarter than me. And I looked around and realized, yeah, everyone's pretty much the same.
We have a new chip leader, Dutch Boyd.
So how that's really helped me in poker is that I don't have any fear of any of the other players. The big advantage I have in this tournament is that I'm an unknown. And that's huge. That's poker. When they ask, how are you doing? You know, I just look at my chips and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just on a great rush of luck. I've gotten aces like 7 times today, and kings like 5 times. They're like, really? No. But I don't want them thinking that I can actually play. I must have done something right in the past life. So who's Dutch Boyd?
80,000.
Hopefully the next big thing in poker.
Dutch Boyd sitting behind 650,000 in chips just to his left. Chris Moneymaker just a little bit shy at 575. The flop's down 925. Dutch Boyd with a king queen. Moneymaker with a couple of 3s and the advantage. And it is up to Chris Moneymaker to make the move. He does make the bet of 100,000.
I don't believe you have that much chips. That means you go like this. I thought he had aces. He said,
Now to Dutch Boyd.
I thought aces definitely.
I know you want to take those sunglasses off because it's probably getting pretty dark.
If he looks at him any longer, he's going to have to ask him out to dinner.
Chris is probably just sitting there with his eyes closed under the glare of Dutch Boyd. Oh, and Dutch Boyd's going to move all in.
As tough as it is for Dutch Boyd to make that bet with just king queen, is it going to be tougher for Chris Moneymaker to call with just a pair of 3s when he'd be going all in and would be knocked out of the tournament if he lost this hand?
Where did he get him from? A call.
He's going to do it.
And he does. Wow.
That is a feel. It's instinct. It's not poker strategy that anybody would write up.
Low cards.
And he's calling out for low cards because he has correctly assumed that Dutch Boyd does not have a pair but only has high cards.
Hell of a call there.
Well, Dutch Boyd acknowledging what a gutsy call it was for Chris Moneymaker to make that with 2 3s.
And a 4 comes out on the turn, which actually gives Moneymaker now a straight draw.
And the last card, an ace of diamonds, and it gives Moneymaker a straight and a victory. A huge win over Dutch Boyd.
And that's a big blow to Dutch Boyd. Most of his chips were lost on that pot.
Wow, what a move by Chris Moneymaker.
And most pros would not make that move. He put his tournament life at stake on a pair of 3s. He's out of the tournament if he loses that pot.
Put him on a high hand and no pocket pairs. Mine got there.
What a call by Chris Moneymaker. Dutch Boyd now being consoled by some friends.
They're telling him he's not out of it yet, but he's got very little margin for error left.
And as Chris Moneymaker rakes in his winnings, he is the new chip leader, 1.2 million, and Dutch Boyd has his back firmly against the wall.
Could be making some desperation calls here.
Phil Hellmuth, you'll remember, was the first of the final 27 to go down. The cop was the last one you saw, but in between, many more have bit the dust. The River was unkind to Men the Master, and he finished 25th. 4 more players then went all in.
River is a 5. Dennis Waterman finishes.
And all out.
Now!
This hand knocked Abraham Rosenkrantz out. He finished in 21st place. The cop, as you know, was 20th, and Howard Lederer is in danger of finishing 19th. He is all in right now against Phil Ivey, a man you don't want to be all in against. Ivey has a straight, and that is going to put the professor out of the tournament.
But it's the first time he's finished in the money here in 16 years.
Well, he'll be happy about that, but disappointing overall not to win. Not bad for the family. He and his sister, Annie Duke, finish in the top 50. And he says his goodbyes, and Lederer has nothing but praise for the man who knocked him out.
He is absolutely fearless. He can have any 2 cards at any time, and he will play them like they're aces. That puts people under a tremendous amount of pressure. It's very hard to play against Phil.
A great poker player has to have really good instincts.
3,500.
He has to be able to feel out his opponent, try and outguess him, figure out what he's thinking.
Don't hit it again.
When I play poker, I don't really sit down at the table with a strategy. Sometimes it's right to be aggressive.
Raise 300.
Sometimes it's right to sit back and wait patiently. Whatever the players are doing, I just react to it.
Raise.
Like any other sport, you play poker, you need to practice it. I put in a lot of hours. I'm thinking about the game a lot, and because I do that, I benefit from it.
With only 18 players left, just 2 tables in action now. Phil Ivey has shifted over to our main table, and that is going to grab a lot of attention with 550,000.
Yeah, you give him ammunition, he will use it. You want to stay out of his way. He is very dangerous now.
The average is about 466,000 among the 18 players. There is Freddy Deeb from Las Vegas, Nevada, the first to act. A couple of kings, and he's going to play. He throws in a bet for 20,000. And next to act is Bruno Fitoussi, who's at 340,000 right now, but he was our chip leader at the start of day 4 at 671. He has a Jack-10 suited.
One of the player's favorite hands, and he will call with the Jack-10 suited.
And you see the percentage, of course, in Deeb's corner right now with Phil Ivey to act and 2 7s. Not going to hold up very well against 2 kings, but we'll see how Ivey plays.
Phil likes to play pocket pair. Sometimes he mixes up his game, and he will play the 7s. He is an underdog.
And here comes the flop. It is 3, 10, and 7.
The underdog becomes the big dog. 3 7s for Phil Ivey. So he is now the overwhelming favorite among these 3 players. Freddy Deeb had checked the 2 kings. And Bruno Fitoussi may be thinking he's the leader now. He has high pair on the board with 10s, so he comes out betting.
Phil Ivey's got his hand on a stack, and it looks like he's going to play, at least call, maybe raise with his set of 7s. And he indeed does raise with his 3 7s, and the action goes over to Freddy Deeb,
who can't figure out what's happened. He has the pocket kings, and now all of a sudden he's got a bet and a raise in front of him. And he would have thought the kings were best.
Bruno Fitoussi, a very interested onlooker. He will be the next to act.
Well, Freddy Deeb stacking them up.
He's counting them.
I'm on at 159.
And he is going to go all in.
An efficient all in. He tells you exactly how much he has left. Very customer friendly. Bruno Fitoussi gets rid of the Jack-10, and quickly Phil Ivey has called.
And the pot size up to 489,000, and all the cards on the table. And now Deeb knows that Ivey has a set of 7s.
I don't think he'd raise it with 3 7s.
He's not happy to see that. And he's all in. He will be out of the tournament unless he wins this pot, and he's going to need a king.
And it's a turn, and there's the king.
He immediately takes the lead in the hand.
I don't think there is for the set of sevens, you know?
Well, now only a 7 will bring this pot back to Phil Ivey.
Send it, baby.
Here comes the winner. It's a 9, and it's not going to do it for Phil Ivey, and so Freddy Deeb pulls it out of the stack.
120, 150, 159. 159.
Relax, relax.
I'm excited, baby. I'm sorry.
I understand.
A little testy is Phil Ivey.
159.
Well, big boost to Freddy Deeb.
Must be the shirt.
If you're still here tomorrow, I'll loan you the shirt, and I'll wear another one.
I don't think Phil wants that shirt. Of course, I'd wear it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, okay. You might have to pay me something.
So while Ivey loses a lot of chips, he keeps his sense of humor. Meanwhile, the pair that was at war earlier are both at our outer table. Scotty Nguyen has gone all in with a pair of jacks. He is not up against Sammy Farha this time, who is paying close attention to how these players do move through their hand. But he's up against this man, Olaf Thorsen. He has ace-queen offsuit, and it's up to Olaf to call or not. And he does indeed call, and so Scotty turns over the 2 jacks. Olaf turns over his unsuited ace-queen.
Ace-queen over here.
And for the former champion, Scotty Nguyen, he would be out of the tournament if he's to lose this. He is a slight favorite right now with the jacks. Olaf Thorsen with 2 overcards, an ace and a queen.
The flop comes out. It is king 2 and 10. Scotty Nguyen still with the advantage, still all in, of course.
But Thorsen now has picked up a straight draw. If he gets one of Scotty's jacks, he would make a straight. There's 2 jacks left.
A 7 on the turn.
It is a 7, as you hear.
No help there. So now a jack for a straight or an ace or a queen would be good enough for Olaf Thorsen.
And it's the ace of clubs. A lightning bolt strikes Scotty Nguyen and takes him out of the tournament.
That's the nature of no limit. You can play it right and have it end so wrong.
All is right in the world of Olaf Thorsen, our new chip leader, and Scotty Nguyen is heading home.
It's just disappointed, you know. Working so hard the last 4 days, you know, and then have to walk away with something like this, you know what I mean? That's it, baby.
And that's just about it for this man, Dutch Boyd. After a tough beat from Chris Moneymaker, he's now down to just 67,000 in chips.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.
And preparing for the worst. He is all in with a couple of 5s against a suited king deuce of Sammy Farha.
He's gone all in, and now it's Sammy's decision.
I got deuce high, that's the problem.
Farha, one of the more playful players, and he plays more hands than most players of his stature.
Deuce high, 1 card.
He says he's got 1 card.
I don't know if I want the call or not now.
67? Yes, sir. Well, let's gamble, man.
Let's gamble, Sammy Farha says.
Yeah.
All right. Cards are on the table. Everybody sees what everybody's got.
So a 2-to-1 favorite right now with the 2 5s.
Please, 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 please.
Oh, there's a 5. Oh, Jesus.
And the flop gives Dutch Boyd a set of 5s.
Cards on the board.
Oh, you got 8 outs. 8 outs.
But Sammy Farha does have 8 outs. There's now a flush draw out there, and there are 8 hearts left that could beat Dutch Boyd.
Please, no.
And the turn card is about to come. It is a queen of clubs, and that gives Farha some more outs.
Yeah, that's not a heart, but that gives him now a straight draw. With a 10, he would make a straight. So he now has a flush draw and a straight draw coming to the river.
Put it there.
I'm closing my eyes.
There it is.
The king.
King of clubs. And that is going to do it for Dutch Boyd. He doubles up at the expense of Sam Farha.
Back in there, man. I'm back in. Woo!
Thanks. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Chris Moneymaker with a welcome back to Dutch Boyd, whose future looks much brighter now, almost as bright as the lights of Binion's Horseshoe Casino. you were at the World Series of Poker, had 600,000 in chips, it would look just about like that, but this belongs to Amir Vahidi, and he's put it all in. Well, you got to have something. He and chip leader Olaf Thorsen had about 400,000 in before. The pot is up to $1 million right now, and Thorsen must decide whether or not to call with his ace-king.
Vahidi has a diamond draw right now.
But if I'm going to win this tournament, I'm going to call it now.
My goodness.
That is a poker attitude.
Thorsen is calling $600,000 after the flop with just ace-king.
Largest pot of the tournament.
And indeed now 1.6 million in the pot.
Right now.
Basically a coin flip right now. The ace-king is slightly ahead. Nobody with a pair, but Vahidi with the diamond draw.
We have not seen this size pot up to this point.
Two diamonds. And we have an ace of diamonds over here for Olaf. We're going to see the next card now.
Next card ready to come. It is a 2 of spades.
And no help to either player. For Vahidi to stay alive, he's going to need a diamond or a queen or an 8.
How about an 8, Norm?
That's how you get balls, baby. Come on, baby.
Amir Vahidi with a huge win over Olaf Thorsen.
And Thorsen, who was in a favorable chip position, just put a lot of his chips in danger with just an ace-king, and he paid the price.
Oh, that view of Thorsen tells it all. Amir Vahidi now with 1.6 million in chips.
I know. But still, when you lose, you are crazy about it.
And that is the danger right now for Olaf Thorsen. Play is not going to halt just because you are stunned. He still has 400,000 in chips, and he cannot go off his rocker right here.
Now, always a tendency after a bad beat to do just that.
Back in play, and Olaf Thorsen now has to get his mind on this hand. He has 2 kings, and he really has no choice but to play this hand now.
And he makes a $40,000 bet. Sammy Farha flings in a call.
Here comes the flop. It is 10, 6, and ace, and that gives Farha 2 aces.
And Olaf goes all in, and he's putting in more than 350,000.
If I lose this, I'll be Steven.
Okay. I don't know if I'd go all in right now with just kings. Then again, I usually don't have any money, so it's a moot point, but there's an ace on the board, so he could be beat, and he went all in with the kings.
I'll have to wonder if Thorsen's trying to make up for the hand he just lost a moment ago, too.
And with Farha calling with the aces, Olaf knows he's behind.
Eliminate Olaf at 10 on the turn.
No help for Thorsen, who needs a king to all of a sudden stay alive in this tournament, else he's going to be gone without a king.
Not there. Olaf Thorsen finishes.
And just from penthouse to outhouse in 2 hands. He was a chip leader, and now he's out. That's like going from the honeymoon night straight to divorce court.
Olaf Thorsen from 1.2 million to zip in 2 hands, and must seem like a long time ago when he knocked out former champion Scotty Nguyen. And that now leaves just one former champion in the field, Dan Harrington. He's in good shape right now, looking at 330,000 in tournament chips, and his whole cards, ace and jack suited. And he's going to bet, and he bets 50,000.
Harrington is a conservative player. He picks his spots tighter than most of the big-time pros, but tough to beat.
Freddy Deeb has 150,000 in chips and 2 sixes.
There's 100 more all in.
Well, Freddy Deeb is going to go all in and risk his tournament chances with 2 sixes, and Harrington calls immediately.
And this hand is pretty much of a coin flip. The 2 sixes against the 2 overcards that are suited.
And for Dan Harrington, the former champion, a win here would put him in very strong position, almost give him a $500,000 chips. And now we're ready for the flop. And it does come 8, jack, and 2.
This jack is hunting me.
That jack is going to flop Freddy Deeb close to the trash heap. He's now well behind.
The turn card is a 5. Harrington still leads with the 2 jacks.
And he now has a heart draw, Freddy Deeb. So a heart or a 6 will keep him alive.
And it's neither. It's a 2 of diamonds. And Freddy Deeb goes down to former champion Dan Harrington. 13th place for Freddy Deeb and $65,000 for his efforts here in Las Vegas. And Dan Harrington is once again a force to be reckoned with. And the same could be said for Dutch Boyd, surprisingly enough. Down at one point to 67,000 in chips. He now has 454,000.
Can't win this thing without heart, man.
He has been the human roller coaster.
Dutch Boyd is going all in with his 2 queens against Sammy Farha's 2 aces.
Well, you're going to send for
Maybe
400.
I'm going home.
Huh?
Maybe I'm going home.
No, maybe you send it.
Let's go. Sure. Okay. It's got me coming. You have an ace?
I don't know what you have.
I got a queen.
I got you beat.
It's all out in the open now. Chip count almost $1 million in the pot.
Okay, what do I got? I got 5 outs.
Those 5 outs are the 2 queens and the 3 jacks remaining in the deck. He needs a queen or a jack, does not get either one on the turn.
One more card left in Boyd's tournament, perhaps. And it is a 2 of diamonds, and that is going to do it. Dutch Boyd is eliminated from the 2003 World Series of Poker. What a ride.
Tremendous ride. And the 2 young guns, the 2 dead money amateurs acknowledge each other. Dutch Boyd had told us he wanted to make the final table. He ends up 3 spots short of his goal.
And he seems very pleased with his first championship appearance.
We're gonna like take over the poker world, man, because I'm there.
You gotta love his attitude. He's going out like a winner. He just won 80,000. He can easily spend that over the next several hours in Vegas.
Played like it's a over. Champ. What do you guys want? Like I lost, you know, I made the wrong move. Oh, that's poker. We'll see them all next year.
Eventually, 838 people will say goodbye. After all, there can be only one winner.
Vin Nguyen has been eliminated. He's our 11th place finisher.
For now, though, 10 remain. It's about 2 a.m. and all the outer tables are empty, and the crowd is gathered around the only table left. This will be the final table tomorrow, but tonight, 10 people are battling for 9 spots. One more person will be eliminated. This is a tough table indeed. Let's take you through the top 10 we have left. David Gray, the short stack at 320,000. Young Pack, not a lot of people thought he would be here. Phil Ivey, well, we had a lot of people thinking he would be here. The former champion, Dan Harrington, is strong with 600,000. A good friend of his is Jason Lester with 20,000 more. And then there's David Singer at 750,000. And welcome to the Millionaires Club, the expeditionist Homer Benvenisti at a cool $1 million. Sam Farha, 1.3 million, still looking strong. Amir Vahidi, consistent throughout the 4 days, 1.35 million. And above them all is the accountant from Tennessee, Chris Moneymaker.
And not a bad place for Mr. Moneymaker to be, considering he won his way into this tournament by winning a $40 entry fee internet tournament.
And let the elimination begin.
And we're still looking at Phil Ivey in the field, and I still think he's the man to beat.
Sam Farha, a very active player throughout, looking at his suited ace-9. He's going to start things off with a 16,000 chip bet. Phil Ivey folds it. Young Pack does likewise. Jason Lester folds, Harrington folds. Up to Gray, not going to play, and now it is to Chris Moneymaker with an ace-queen. Action to him. Farha, remember, with a $16,000 bet.
And Moneymaker has the better kicker with the ace. Farha is suited, but right now Chris Moneymaker with the better hand with the queen against the 9.
And the raise is to 50, and Sam Farha calls it. We'll have a flop. Right now, as you see, Moneymaker with the advantage at 71%. next to his name. And the flop comes 6-4 ace. It gives each player an ace, but the queen outduels Sammy's 9.
Yeah, they both have aces. No flush draw now for Sammy Farha.
After the check for Farha, Moneymaker makes it a $70,000 bet back to Sam Farha.
Lay it down, big man. Lay it down.
He loves to play. We know that.
I wanted to channel Bill Walton for a moment. He is going to play. So it is still Chris Moneymaker in the lead with the higher kicker with the aces.
River card comes 5 of spades. No help. Another check from Farha, and it looks like Chris wants to draw some more out.
Well, he's ahead in the hand, and only a 9 for Sammy Farha will win the hand on the river.
Another 70,000.
Call again, 70 and 70 again.
Here comes the river. King of clubs. So you see the check next to Moneymaker. Says he's got the best hand. Let's see how they play it out.
Farha has checked once again, and once again, Moneymaker has bet 70,000 for the 3rd consecutive betting round.
With a pot approaching $500,000. Sam's gonna play. He wants to see the cards, and Moneymaker turns over his ace-queen.
No, put him back. It's okay. I can read it better than you do.
And well, Sammy Farha can read that his hand has been outkicked. They both had the aces. Moneymaker with the better kicker.
A huge hand for Chris Moneymaker. Takes over $200,000 out of the stack of Sam Farha. Play will continue at Binion's until we lose one more man. No, the fans aren't bored, but they are tired. Nearly 3 a.m. here at Binion's. Even the players are feeling it. They've been playing for almost 15 hours. David Gray remains the short stack of the table. Everyone but him probably hoping he'll just be done with it, get knocked out so they can get some sleep. Action, though, does continue now until one more player is eliminated. Chris Moneymaker is our chip leader at this point. Don't expect him to do anything huge, but he's looking at ace-queen, so he's going to make some sort of move. He bet 60,000 on the ace-queen. Action over to Phil Ivey now, and looking at a couple of 9s.
Phil Ivey always loves pocket pairs.
He'll call it. Next in line is Jason Lester. Ivey with the lead with the 2 9s. Well, Lester with a couple of 10s. And at least before the flop, you figure he's going to stick around, and he indeed does call that.
Now we have 3 players in the spot.
Nobody else wants any action, and so we're going to get the flop now. Moneymaker, Ivey, and Lester in the hand. The flop comes 2 queens.
A monster flop for Chris Moneymaker, who makes 3 queens and becomes a prohibitive favorite.
Jason Lester checks, so the action to Moneymaker, you have to figure he's going to push things right now. And he does with 70,000.
I thought he might have pushed it more. Generally, you make a bigger bet there and you push out the competition. We always like to say better to win a small pot than lose a large pot. He's almost inviting calls right there with the 70,000. A big favorite in the hand.
Well, Phil Ivey is indeed going to take that bait, and he'll call it.
Yeah, Phil Ivey will call, and I guess for the 70,000 he'll call. He is well behind in the hand, doesn't know it. Jason Lester actually has a better hand than Phil Ivey right now. He decides he's going to stay out of harm's way. He doesn't want to get any trouble at this point. The next person knocked out doesn't make the final table. So Jason Lester.
Here comes a turn in. It's a 9, and that gives Phil Ivey a full house.
Miracle on 4th Street for Phil Ivey, who now has the full house and the better hand.
But nobody knows it here except Phil Ivey.
And there's no reason for Moneymaker to assume that Ivey had the pocket 9s. So he's going to bet 200,000. Understandably, he just can't think he has that type of hand to beat him. He's got to believe the 3 queens are best right now. And Phil Ivey deciding what he's going to do, he's obviously going to play. And if and when he wins this sizable pot, Phil Ivey will put himself in terrific chip position for the final day.
All in.
He is all in.
All in.
And quickly called.
Chris calls.
The pot size is 1 million now.
9's full for Phil Ivey.
Moneymaker is disgusted. He never could have assumed the 2 9s in the hole for Phil Ivey. And now he is going to need an ace, a queen, or a 6 on the river to win the hand, which would knock out Phil Ivey.
Moneymaker's looking for an ace on the river or another queen. Here we go. We're going to see one more card. It's an ace!
An incredible knockout blow for probably the best player left in the tournament, who's gone down.
Oh, amazing. Phil Ivey loses with a full house to a better full house of Chris Moneymaker,
who has now knocked out heavyweights Johnny Chan, Umberto Brenes, and Phil Ivey. My goodness.
Who is this young man? The remaining players thrilled to be at the final table, but also happy and relieved that the great Phil Ivey will be absent. So Phil Ivey is the 10th place finisher and 830th player eliminated. And after 4 grueling, adrenaline-pumping, heart-stopping days, we're finally down to our final table. 9 players remain, among them an expeditionist, a former champion, a few of the best players in the world, and a moneymaker who currently has the most of it. Chips, that is, $2,344,000. But today no longer counts. It's all about the final table. 9 people playing for $2.5 million next time on the World Series of Poker.